We are very honoured today to have with us Professor Andrew Conway, who is the Professional Accountants Organisation Development Committee member of the International Federation of Accountants. Andrew is also a CEO of the Institute of Public Accountants in Australia, and he is here in Malaysia for the IFAC event on developing accountancy capacity in emerging economies. So welcome to Malaysia, Andrew, and thank you for speaking to us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I look forward to having the conversation. Thank you.
Okay. So you will be speaking tomorrow on a topic about preparing a future-ready profession. And I think this would relate to my first question. What are the challenges that the accounting profession is facing now as well as in the future?
So I like to look at the challenge. It's a very good question. I like to think about challenges the accounting profession faces in the context of the opportunities the accounting profession has. And there are many. I think just to highlight a few of them. We have a global issue, I think, of trust in institutions. And what our role is in that as a profession is really important to grapple with. I think also the rise of technology and the way in which our profession responds to technology and use of technology, so that we're not necessarily just looking at technology from the point of view of a risk, but also how can we address that? And we might talk about that a bit later on. And I think also thinking about the social work that our profession does. So what social value does our profession have? So there's a lot of challenges, a lot of risk and a lot of issues facing our profession, but I think the opportunities are there for us to seize.
Okay, I mean that is very, you're giving a positive note in terms of, I asked you about challenges, but you turn it into opportunities, so that's great. So now how do the accounting profession, how should they respond to this, use these opportunities? And how actually the committee, the Professional Accountancy Organisation Development Committee, respond to this?
So I think the notion of future ready and being future ready is primarily about being engaged. Our profession has existed for centuries, hasn't it? I mean, we've had hundreds and hundreds of years of perfecting our profession. And our profession has proven that it can evolve. And I think what we're going through now, through the cycle of the technological revolution, is another period of evolution. And that is our profession needs to adapt and it needs to respond to those challenges. So I think to talk to one aspect of that would be if we think about technology and what opportunity exists for our profession to seize the technological space. And that, by saying that, I mean turning our role as trusted advisors to business into being trusted technology and trusted data advisors. That's an area that I think is a gap in our market. And I think we have a right and a role to play in really addressing that technological gap.
Okay, so now if I can move to a bit of public sector, well, given your vast experience in Treasury Ministry and then your leadership at the Institute of Public Accountants in Australia, where are they in terms of, where are the public sector accountants in terms of adopting technology in Australia?
Yeah, so I think it's the response to the question would be, I'd be lying if I was to say that everything was perfect. I think we are, like many other markets, on a journey of adoption and a journey of rolling out processes and procedures relating to the public sector. And so we're evolving it. So the actual response to your question is it's patchy. And I speak about that from the point of view of not just an observer having been involved in Treasury and other things in the past, but also now I sit on the board of a government enterprise in Australia. And I can see firsthand the role that technology is playing. And certainly the role, the way in which we're using accounting information systems, the reliance on real-time management accounts, using the systems and processes more effectively to manage the resources, but also to manage and detect risk, and how we're actually using technology to create greater layers of assurance. So it's evolving, it's going well, but I wouldn't be honest with you and say everything is perfect.
the role of public sector accountants in enhancing public financial management?
So I think a big part of that is having strong and effective relationships with key government stakeholders. So that is from heads of government down. So we spend a lot of time making sure the profile of our profession is well understood, that the role that our profession plays is understood. And also, there are always government inquiries and investigations into aspects of the market. We have one in Australia at the moment in terms of audit. And so how we actually address the notion of the role that our profession plays in boosting public financial management, accountability and transparency is key. So I go back to my initial point, and that is on trust. For us to ensure we maintain the position of trust, and in Australia, accountants are the most trusted finance professional in the country. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens over many years of experience, but it can be lost in an instant. And so we're very conscious of that role of trust that we have to preserve and we can leverage. And we try and do that by educating our stakeholders about the important role we play. So we see ourselves as playing that fundamental advocacy function around on behalf of our profession, the role of playing in the public sector.
Ensure that the accounting profession is the profession of choice for the young talent?
So I think there's a pretty simple response and a simple solution, but it might have some complexities within it. And that is for us to be really clear about the social role that our profession plays. So if we think about what's motivating a younger person as they embark on their career, some statistics from the World Economic Forum suggested to us that actually what young people want to know is their work has social value. And what we have to do is help draw the connection between the motivations of a younger person and the opportunities of our profession. And if I can give you one example, at World Congress of Accountants just last November, I actually spoke about this issue. Where we need to be very clear about the role that our profession plays in supporting the mental health and well-being of small business owners. Now in Australia we detected that as a big issue and we developed some research base around that, and now the government's taken that on as a major research topic for the government. And what our feedback has been from younger people coming to our profession is that they can see the connection, that by providing better services and support to small business owners, you're boosting the quality of life of that small business owner. So I think it's about having that true connection, that it's not just about the numbers, it's not just about technology and about our systems and processes. Ultimately, our profession is about people and the social impact our work has. And so this conference we're having in KL as we speak is about fragile and conflict-affected states. And it specifically refers to what we can do as a profession to boost transparency, boost the capacity of financial systems to help ultimately eradicate poverty. And I think if we start speaking in those terms about our social value as accountants, then I think we'll be in a much better position to attract and retain talent. And I think there's an opportunity, sorry to cut in there, I think there's an opportunity, there's a very strong focus that IFAC has on drawing a connection to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And if we think about just a few aspects of those, the issues around quality of education. So when we talk about future ready, and when IFAC and the PAODC and IFAC talks about future ready, we're talking about all of those things. It's about how do we position the accounting profession and accounting professional bodies to actually harness the SDGs and provide a foundation into them. So if it's about quality of education, how do we make sure that the quality of education is robust and relevant in today's changing market?
Now going back to emerging technologies, I think the trend that we can see, a new profession is created. And there is also a possibility about the current profession being combined and become one profession. For example, if I can think about accountants, to a certain extent the work that you are doing, probably you can call yourself a bit of data analyst,
yes,
right? So what is your view on this, and what are other combinations that you could foresee?
Look, it's a really good question. I think many education institutions are grappling with this as well, about how do you structure courses around that demand. Look, I think in terms of technology, there are many people who say that world of accounting is going to change dramatically, that there will be, in 20 years' time, there'll be no more accounting jobs. And I'm not as pessimistic. As you picked up from my opening comments, I'm a fairly optimistic person. I'm optimistic because history's proven us to be optimistic, where the accounting profession has evolved. And if we go back a few decades, there was a once very thriving industry producing hard copy ledger books.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
We've evolved with technology. And I know that's a bit of a throwaway line, but the role that AI is playing is really intense. But I still believe that presents an opportunity. And because fundamentally, my feeling is that our role as a professional and supporting professionals is about that human interface. So that artificial intelligence is good, but I think it gets beaten every day of the week by emotional intelligence. And when professionals are engaged by a client, they come to the professional for the emotional intelligence. They say, yes, happy that you got the data. AI will help us get the data much faster. But ultimately, they want to sit down and actually go through that data with a person face to face. So I think whilst ever that remains the case, we've got a very strong position to hold on to. So I'm very positive about the role of technology. As I said, AI is good, but EI is better. And we've got to encourage our students coming through to understand the human interface and understand their ability to communicate will be one of their strongest assets.
Right.
So I think AI is going to have a role, and it is having a role already in getting information faster. But what that's enabling is better conversations. And I think we have to adjust the entire system, the way in which we're producing professionals, including accounting education, the way we regulate conduct in our professional life, everything in terms of that changing nature of the role. And if we can help reorient our professional certification programs as PAOs around the emotional intelligence side, it's really important. One example from our PAO, our professional program is a two-stage program. The first stage is really ascertaining the accounting fundamentals, and it's a graduate certificate program at the university. The second stage, though, is a 6-unit program culminating in an MBA. And the MBA is designed to be a strategic business advice certification. So it's about taking the accounting knowledge, linking it with the client engagement, and then making sure you can actually add value to the client or the business you're working with. And one of those units actually focuses on dealing with clients, interpersonal relationships. So I think more of that will be helpful in terms of the profession adjusting to that AI, EI paradigm.
Yeah, so moving them towards more of the human skills,
Correct.
Emotional intelligence related skills, right? What would be your advice to the young accountants out there for them to emulate?
So what I say to young accountants and people wanting to advance their career is have a very strong focus on why you're doing what you're doing. And one of the references I always give to students is to look at, just even on YouTube, at Simon Sinek. It's Sinek,
Yes.
about finding your why. It's a really powerful thing to do. So we did it as an organisation about finding your why. And that why is around what is the ultimate social purpose of the work you're doing. So in that individual sense, it's why am I doing why am I embarking on being a CEO? Why do I want to be an accountant? What is it to provide a future for my family? So trying to isolate that why and find that personal why is really important, because that will help identify what sort of organisation you want to go and work with. So it starts that career journey. So it doesn't always work, as we know in our careers. Nothing's ever linear.
Yes.
Very rarely linear. And so you've got to be prepared to take risks as well. But I think finding your why is a really critical aspect. And then also respecting that trust position you have and making sure that the trust position you have is reflected in the way you engage in your community. So adding social value from a very early age. So those things, I think, provide a well-rounded foundation for a very strong and fruitful career.
All right, I think thank you so much, Andrew.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I wish all the members of the MIA all the very best. We've got a great working relationship with the MIA, very well respected, and I enjoy working with your CEO and all the counterparts at your institute.
Thank you.
Thank you.